Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. I am the owner of Saphira's Den Dragons. I have been making polymer clay dragons for a few months now, and I started making these dragons with something called solar color dust. This is my water horse dragon that I made with solar color dust. This is my ice dragon that I did. And this is my little baby dragon, all colored and coated with solar color dust. And a lot of you saw these posts on the Polymer Clay group and were asking me about solar color dust. What is it? What's the difference between solar color dust and regular mica powders? So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today. Solar Color Dust is a company where they provide a bunch of different powders and pigments for different purposes. For example, they have chameleon powders, which is what I'm going to be talking about today, where the colors change depending on the light. So if you look really closely, you can kind of see this dragon changing from blues to purples to reds and yellows. So that has a really cool effect, whereas regular mica powders usually only stay one color. They also have different products that they offer, like glow-in-the-dark pigments, solar-powered pigments where they go on white and turn a color in the sun. So a lot of really cool things to go and check out. But today I'm going to be talking about the 2 color changing chameleon series. So I'm going to put these aside. I did a few swatches of some different colors of the solar color dust on different colored clays, because usually they talk about putting it on a black clay to get the most amount of pigment out of the solar color dust, but I've had some luck with putting it, for example, on translucent clay for this ice dragon to get that kind of icicle-y shine to it. That's really a cool effect. So I've also had some luck with putting solar color dust on colored clays. This was a royal blue clay, and I put violet blue on top of it, and it came out with this really rich kind of color. So the different colors clays will change the coloring of the solar color dust that you're using. So in this first line, this is the violet to blue solar color dust on white clay, translucent clay, black clay, teal clay, purple clay, blue clay, and red clay. The next line is going to be the orange to blue, I believe. And as you can see, it's a really strong pigment of orange on the white clay. But when you get to the black clay, it shows a lot of the kind of blue tones to it. And then teal, purple, blue, and red clay as well. Over here we've got the red to purple, which is one of my personal favorite colors. It doesn't show up very well on white clay. Translucent, it looks really interesting, as you can kind of see. It's got that kind of iridescent look to it. And then black clay, this really shows up well. The teal clay, it shows a lot of the purple tones. And then purple clay, it gives a lot of the magenta hues. I would use this color on purple clay over any other colored clay, on red clay, or I'm sorry, on blue clay and then red clay. So those are all of the solar color dust. And then over here I did a few swatches of some Pearl X pigments. The first few are of silver Pearl X, and then the bottom row is of flamingo pink Pearl X, I believe. The one thing that I really like about solar color dust is you can see the amount of vibrancy, the difference between the Pearl X and the Solar Color Dust, you really get a bright pop with the pigment with the Solar Color Dust, whereas with Pearl-Ex I feel like it's a little bit more muted, and you have to apply a lot more with the Pearl-Ex to get a really strong pigment from it. Another thing that I noticed a lot about the Pearl-Ex is I do have to glaze my products after I bake them, because they do shed a little bit. That's not a good one, but the powders will come off on your finger. And if you're selling a product like a necklace or earrings or anything, you don't want that color rubbing off. Whereas with this, there's very little shed to it. I still personally glaze just because I like a really strong shine on my products, but it is not a necessity. You don't have to do that. So those are all of the swatches and all of the different colors of the Solar Color Dust, and then a comparison to Pearl-Ex. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how I apply my Solar Color Dust. There are a few different ways that you can apply this. I have this little fluffy brush, which is my personal favorite for applying. It's an old eyeshadow brush that I used. It's a blending brush that I got in a pack of like 15 on Amazon, I think. But I really like it. It's really fluffy. It's really light. So this is really good for dusting products on, where you just use a really light stroke. I have this Filbert brush, which I use for packing a lot of pigment in one area. So if I'm like on this little guy, I wanted him to have a lot of concentrated blue in one area, so I just packed the pigment on a lot in that one area, but I didn't want it over here. So and then I have another little Filbert brush, and I kind of go between these two if I want to do a fading technique like I did with this dragon. As you can see, he has some red purple hues and violet blue tones. So on his fins and his wings, the violet blue fades into that red purple, and it's a kind of really pretty ombre effect that I personally really like. So I'm gonna go into some packing techniques, some dusting techniques, and some fading techniques for you guys today. So I'm going to use, actually I don't want to use that one, I'm almost out. We'll do orange blue. So I put my Solar Color Dust, I snip them open, and then I put them on each of these paper plates. It's probably not the most effective way to store the Solar Color Dust, but I really like it, because even if there's some little pigment left, I can scoop it all up and really get the most out of my pigment. Now you don't need a lot, you just scoop a tiny bit out, and that will give you, just that little bit will give you a ton of color. So I have a lot of pigment on my dusting brush, and what I'm just gonna do is just lightly dust it on, okay? Now you can see that it's kind of spotting a little bit, and it's not all over, it's not covering the clay. I'll use some red purple to also kind of show you, because that has a little bit more of a vibrant color. There you go. So see, it's not too overpowering. So if you want to dust like rose petals or do just like an accent tone, that's how you would want to apply it with this little fluffy brush. So then I'm going to show you how to pack the color on. Take a little bit of my color, load it onto my Filbert brush, and just pat it, okay? And just really pack it on there. And it may take a layer or two. But don't fool yourself, because even if it doesn't look really strong in one light, it will look really strong in another. So right now I'm getting a lot of purple tones, but if I change my head position just a little bit, it changes to blue. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but that is the one thing that I absolutely love about Solar Color Dust, is the ability to give it that kind of three-dimensional effect where it does change different colors, and it really will bring your pieces to life. Now I'm going to talk about this fading effect that I do on my wings or tails, or just different accents for horns, just different things that you can do to add a little bit of extra pop to your dragons or whatever you're doing. So as you can tell, I really love this violet blue color. I mix it with chalk pastels, everything to give, if I don't want a really serious shine on something, I'll mix it with a color pastel to kind of mute it down a little bit. So you grab, and this is a really strong pigment. So you grab a little bit and pack it onto your clay. And this stuff really works well. I've found sometimes that different powders go on better with different brushes. So like this one will go on really well with a little filbert brush or with a fluffy brush. Whereas with the filbert, it kind of all packed in one spot because it's a really strong pigment. And that's just something you're gonna have to play around with. Roll out a piece of clay and just play with the different brushes. See which ones apply really well with the fluffy brush and with the filbert brush. And that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what to do. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my red purple on this fluffy brush too, because this is also a really strong pigment. And I'm just gonna brush it at the bottom, okay? And I'm gonna work it up into that clay, or into the violet purple, okay? And so if you change around, you get different colors from the different chameleon pigments. Which is something that I really love to do. So this is a little bit about the 2-color chameleon series. I got a sample pack of 10 different color combinations. So you get, I got violet blue, orange blue, red purple, purple gold, etc. So you get to pick 10 of those 2-color combinations for $20, which is a really good deal. They come in these little packs, and it looks like it's not a lot, but these things last a long time. I have painted at least 4 to 5 dragons with these pigments, and I've used this violet blue a lot, and I'm not even halfway through the pack. And that's the other thing that's really great, because they are so strong with their pigment. You don't have to use a lot. A little bit goes a long way. I'll attach a link to exactly what I purchased, so then you can just go straight there if this is something you decide you want to purchase. But it's definitely worth the investment. I hope this tutorial helped a little bit, and if you'd like another one on some more color dust or on techniques I use with my dragons, let me know. Thanks.